It should be. Just waiting for the thing to come on. So sorry if I'm lagging, because I have not, been used to what live streaming is supposed to be. Says I'm starting. Okay, I'm live now. Hi everybody. This is Catmaster or Shane or Shen, whatever you know me by. I'm here to discuss something that's been on my mind since yesterday afternoon, and that I've been trying several times on this confounded streaming technology to try and get across to everyone here. This isn't something that I can just let stand by or only talk about with one person. I think I need to be heard on this. I have foreseen the end of superhero movies as a whole. It is a very bleak, very grim, tragic end. It is an end brought about by fierce, discordant, almost pointless conflict between the studios themselves who created them. Now, these thoughts first came to my mind when I watched I Hate Everything's most recent video, I Hate Superhero Movies. Now, I'm not necessarily arguing against him. I myself am a huge fan of I Hate Everything, or Alex as he actually goes by, and I would highly recommend you check him out. He's got lots of great content. I personally see him as YouTube's logical pessimist, in short, but enough kissing up to him. I've got something to talk about here. A lot of the points that he brought up about why he personally is done with superhero movies as a whole is that a lot of them seem to go about the same kind of patterns and formulas. And another point he brought up is that we, the fans, the comic book fans, are not the results of these movies' success, but instead the mainstream audiences. Please excuse me if my cough persists. It's been annoying me for so long, but I digress. And I don't think I can argue against his point that it's mainstream audiences making these comic book movies successful. Because, let's face it, if it weren't before these extremely successful Marvel movies, then the mainstream public would not know about Iron Man or Captain America or anyone like that. Their success and their popularity is attributed to how these movies have been made for these audiences. And it's not pandering or catering to these audiences in the same way, say, Michael Bay manipulates the lowest common denominator. No, these are good stories. They're very, most of the time they're good films, but they're solid in the way that they know how to tell a story and get these characters' motivations and everything across. And but at the same time do so in a way that mainstream audiences can pick up on. And that seemed to result in a lot of success. However, I don't think that success can last for very long. Because, when they finally came out with the Avengers, which was a huge hit for reasons everybody already knows, they revealed at the mid-credit scene that what they built up for the Avengers, uniting, that was all building up for Thanos to appear and for the Infinity War story to eventually catch on. Which at first was the indication to me that they would only go for those three phases and end the entire MCU at Infinity War. That I was prepared for, and that I would actually be perfectly fine with, because that's why particularly I've been sticking with all these Marvel stories, because I was under the impression that they would all tie into one coherent story leading up to this grand epic end, the Infinity War. And after that, once the MCU is done, I would be happy I went along with the ride and go about my life. But it appears that may not be the case. It appears that a Phase 4 might actually initiate. And if it does, the only reason I'd stick around for that particular phase is not for whatever extended story they're deciding to drag on. Because what I'm staking for is Infinity War. And once that's done, the MCU is done for me as a whole. I'd only go in to see particular movies that I would want to see, like a standalone Mark Ruffalo movie with Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie with the leader as the villain, which they did tease at the end of the Incredible Hulk, but darn cough. Another one I'd like to see is an Iron Man 4 with the real Mandarin as the villain. That would be incredible and would definitely make up for the travesty that was Iron Man 3, which I actually hate more than Iron Man 2. I don't even hate Iron Man 2. I know a lot of people say it's the probably the weakest of the trilogy and everything. I can understand the problem, but I never personally had a problem with that. I hate Iron Man 3, but that's all besides the point. I'm not trying to critique any particular movies here, but yeah, if they did some more Spider-Man movies, now that they own Spider-Man, I would definitely love to see those, because Spider-Man has been a favorite hero of mine since I was a child. I think he was probably my first favorite superhero, actually. So yeah, Spider-Man does mean a lot to me, and I would really love to see them, make those kinds of movies now that they own this character and can do so much with this, with what he truly means. But rambling. Basically, that's just a handful of movies I'd like to see from them. But regardless of what I like, if anything else, if they're just continuing to dig through the bottom of the barrel and just make it popular like they did with Ant-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy. Great movies, but still, that's what they did. They dug up in the bottom of the barrel just to prove that they could do so and still make good movies. Which is, now that you think about it, extremely arrogant. And the MCU's success has definitely gotten to their head by this point. And that definitely manifests once I bring about the topic of how ruthless they've gotten in their competition against DC. Sorry about that anyway, but you're probably saying that now, normally I would say that such a competition wouldn't really, exist. That's just a reactionary fanboy thing, particularly because people like Joss Whedon has said there's no heated competition like that. I mean, there's arbitrary, healthy competition in bringing out their movies, but nothing where they're trying to be ruthless to each other. But that's automatically got proven wrong to me. Starting with them releasing the new Civil War trailer introducing Spider-Man weeks before Batman v Superman came out. That is incredibly underhanded. But there's just no way around that. They did that deliberately to weaken their competition. And I think they may be doing so because they're scared of what DC can do. Because, let's face it, throughout my ride watching the MCU movies and sticking along with these stories, they have not gotten me interested in a single Marvel comic. Not one. I only watch the movies because the movies themselves were interesting. It did not make me want to go into the actual comics. The DC movies, on the other hand, the Dark Knight trilogy and Man of Steel, those got me interested in their inspired source material. The Nolan Batman movies made me a huge Batman fan, as you can see, for the longest time. I think I've read as many Batman graphic novels as there are. I can't name any I haven't read. I mean, there's Year One, you know, I guess I probably just haven't read the New 52, but then again, there's not anything I've read in the New 52. Regardless, I've read up on as much Batman as possible. And once Man of Steel came out, that was a huge game changer for me. I fell in love with that movie, and I fell in love with Superman so much. Superman is now my #1 favorite superhero. It sounds like a generic thing to say on the surface, because he's just one of the most popular superheroes, and, was the first superhero, and just the name Superman, it's just, sort of a generic choice to say for a superhero, but no. What he stands for is incredibly inspiring. His character is extremely deep and very relatable. There's so many great stories that have been made from Superman, Man of Steel included. I will definitely say that. Yes, I'm probably in the minority saying that I love Man of Steel, but then again, it wasn't a minority back during its release. It was more of a very heated half and half thing. The audience was very split. Now that Batman v Superman's come out, which I will definitely say I loved extremely, I nary saw a flaw in it. I think it definitely topped Man of Steel, but that's besides the point. This isn't a review. It's just that the reception for that movie is relatively worse than it was for Man of Steel. It's just almost universally hated. Even the most reserved and fair of fans are just coming to the balanced conclusion that it's okay. I don't know whether or not it is, a withholding of their enthusiasm or anything, or maybe if my conspiracy theory mind. No, it's not I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. There most likely is something going on under the table with, Marvel Studios and Disney, controlling them, trying to undermine the efforts of the DCCU. Yes, I'm calling it DCCU, not DCEU. Extended universes is a very general term, but cinematic, that's more definitive. But I digress. And with that cough, I digress. But anyway, I don't think it's like that. There's no way that I can look at this without seeing, Disney and Marvel trying to undermine Warner Brothers and DC. I think they really are scared of what DC can do. They've got much better stories than Marvel. Like their heroes have a lot more character depth. They even as many reasons that I can prove a DC is better than Marvel for my own bias. If anyone here has a reason why the Marvel comics are worth my time, then please share with me. But even if that's the case, even if there is something worthwhile in Marvel comics, it's clear that the MCU is not basing their stories off the Marvel comics directly. They're, borrowing little bits and pieces from them, but they're not directly inspired by them like the DCCU. They're instead making their own thing that is more generally catered towards audiences, whereas the DCCU is taking something directly from the comics and bringing it to life on the big screen. It's like Zack Snyder said, we're not making it for the critics, we're making it for the fans. And while that may not be a smart move, commercially, at least I can definitely be a lot more proud and a lot more behind the DCCU because they're putting art before profit. But, it looks like the MCU is trying to underhand, trying to destroy them, their competition. It may not necessarily be because they fear DC because their stories are better and their characters are better or whatever, but because they lack the confidence in themselves to stand on their own merits and grounds and let the people decide. And it's because of this ruthlessness of trying to use dirty tactics to keep themselves on top. And not just let the people decide. Let it be a healthy competition and stand on their own merits instead of trying to pull strings and keep themselves on top. If it continues on like this, then sure, they might destroy DC in terms of their cinematic universe. But like I said, people are going to pick up on how formulaic the MCU is, and they're going to walk away. And if they don't do something to change that, then they're just going to wither away anyway. If they keep up this ruthlessness, there's nothing that's going to stop them from going away. And they're going to destroy a chance for people to see the true strength behind DC and their stories. It's because of this ruthless rivalry between them. Yeah, mostly because of the tactics on Marvel's hands, besides DC's, that they're going to destroy superhero movies as a whole. I don't want that to happen. Things need to change. Just need to stop pulling strings, paying critics under the table to give bad reviews. Just let them be themselves. And, change your approach a little bit. Try actually drawing more from the comics. Don't be afraid to do that. Because, I don't want the end of something so great that's brought me such great joy and great passion. I don't want it to end so bleakly and tragically. I don't think I can bear it. And I think that's all I have to say. So, thank you all very much for tuning in and listening to me. I hope you've taken something away from this, whoever you are watching this. Whether you're just a casual fan or maybe even NegSec at Marvel or DC. Wherever you are, I hope you've gotten something out of this. And, thank you for listening. And for people wondering whether or not I'm going to make more videos like this, yes. I am coming out with more videos. Not particularly like this one, but more videos are coming, I assure you. So with that, I leave you. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day. Catmaster out.